First tonight, of course, the Anika Wells scandal deepens. Tonight, new revelations that she failed to declare within the required period a string of free tickets to A-list events, including the Oasis concert, the Logies and the AFL Grand Final. The Courier Mail reports this is in breach of parliamentary rules, increasing the pressure on Anika Wells as she tries to survive the scandal. She's now updated her register to declare 9 freebies, the Courier Mail reports, including the Oasis tickets with her husband. And that's not the only new revelation, with the Sydney Morning Herald tonight reporting that she charged taxpayers almost $1,000 to have her chauffeur-driven car wait 7 hours while she watched the Australian Open tennis final. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is defending Wells as questions mount over her expenses and taxpayer-funded travel during a cost of living crisis, no less. This was meant to be Wells' biggest week as Communications Minister, with a social media ban for teenagers taking effect. Yet instead, she's fronting curly questions about her expenses and fighting to keep her own job. Wells has been under scrutiny since revelations of a $100,000 New York trip to the UN General Assembly 6 days ago. That was a big story, but it turns out it was just the tip of the iceberg. And what's since emerged paints the picture of a minister living large on the taxpayer dime. Not just one trip, not one incident, but a pattern. And she's unrepentant. There's the Paris meals, taking her husband to the Formula One Grand Prix, $4,000 to fly her husband to the cricket, including the Boxing Day test twice. Nearly $9,000 of taxpayer money as well, so her husband could attend 3 AFL Grand Finals with her. Then there's the nearly $3,000 for a family holiday in Thredbo. And a taxpayer-funded trip to Adelaide, coinciding with her friend's birthday party. Now, in particular, on this event, Wells has struggled to explain this Adelaide trip. She initially avoided the question when the Fin broke the story on Thursday, but even by yesterday, after having 3 days to think about it, she still didn't have a decent response when Andrew Clennell interrogated her.
This looks like a scenario where you want to attend your friend's birthday, so you put a couple of official engagements around it. You wouldn't be Robin Caruso in the world of politics to have done that, by the way. But I put that to you now.
I had 4 official engagements. I visited the local new federal member for Sturt, who had only just recently been elected. We were rolling out a Play Our Way program there, which is part of our massive push
Anika
to
Wells,
ensure that our grassroots participation programs...
Did you know about your friend's birthday party before you booked this trip and you booked your meetings?
I can check the timeline for you, but Andrew, this is a work trip. I follow the guidelines. This trip adheres to the guidelines. It was work travel.
Would you consider repaying any of this?
Andrew, I work really hard. I'm grateful for the opportunity to do that. I'm really passionate about the things that I get to do in this job. And I'll continue to follow the rules and follow the guidelines.
And this Adelaide trip may be the most damaging out of all the expenses. If it turns out that Wells dressed up a personal birthday trip as official business, this could be a sackable offence. And this story was a genuine leak from within Labor rather than documents supplied through Freedom of Information or Senate estimates. Now, my colleague Clennell also asked Anika Wells about the taxpayer-funded family trip to Thredbo.
Did your family go skiing?
Yes. Look, separate to my work there and my work trip as the Sport Minister at the Adaptive Festival, which every parliamentarian has family reunion entitlements, which I followed.
Did your family go skiing? They did, right?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
I mean, so taxpayers paid for her family to go skiing, a family skiing holiday at taxpayer expense. Wouldn't you like that? Well, this wouldn't seem to be in the spirit of the family entitlements allowance. And then, of course, there's the extravagant Paris meals, the €569 dinner, equivalent to about 1,000 Australian dollars. And then a second receipt that same day for another €426, more than 850 or so Australian dollars. And on another day, a receipt for a €300 lunch, equal to about 600 Aussie dollars. Well, couldn't Anika Wells have paid for her own meals in Paris? Already she was getting free business class airfares and hotel accommodation. There's no benefit to the taxpayer for her and her advisor to drink wine and eat fancy meals. Well, again, Andrew Clennell asked Wells about this.
Then there was this lunch with your staffer for €303 on the 26th of July. You couldn't just grab a baguette at a local patisserie?
Sometimes we did, Andrew, and I'm happy for us to follow up with you about what the nature of that was. But honestly, every single meal that I recall, unless it was breakfast at the hotel before we went out for the day, was a working meal. We were meeting with stakeholders, we were meeting people about work. We're there to work. I appreciate it looks a certain way because it's Paris.
I mean, Clennell's right. Nothing wrong with a baguette, especially in Paris. And as Clennell told Anika Wells directly, this doesn't pass the pub test. Now, Labor ultimately maintains that all the spending was within the rules, but ministerial standards demand more than technical compliance. The Ministerial Code of Conduct demands that ministers and their staff are provided with resources and facilities at public expense for the effective conduct of public business. But such resources are not to be subject to wasteful or extravagant use, and due economy is to be observed at all times. And it is within the Prime Minister's power to refer this matter or any of the expenses scandals for investigation. But of course, Albanese thinks that all the spending is fine.
So you did approve this?
Of course.
You thought 34 grand for a flight was okay?
Well, we spoke. I didn't get all the receipts, David.
If the Prime Minister thinks this is fine, if he doesn't have a problem with it, it shows just how out of touch he's become. Now, this is Opposition Leader Susan Lee's first major crack at the Albanese government. And the issue is running on the momentum of public outrage and largesse. The question remains whether it's a problem confined to Anika Wells or if it's a cultural attitude widespread within the Albanese government. This is no longer about receipts. It's about whether the Prime Minister thinks it's acceptable for a cabinet minister to spend big and take advantage of the taxpayer like Anika Wells has clearly been doing.